All right, so good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kenji Barriskunda. I'm the external vice president of Gen TFL, or General Educators Network, for teachers of English as a foreign language. So today is actually a very special day because it's the 5th anniversary of Gen TEFL. And to celebrate this, we are doing a free webinar, and this is entitled Differentiating Class Instructions, a Flipped Learning Approach. And as you can see, I'm actually a certified Flip Learning Level 1 by the Flip Learning Global Initiative. So I have also written or authored a paper that was published in Gen TEFL Journal about flipped learning. And now I want to share to you how to differentiate or how to make your instructions better for your students in your class, especially for your English classes. So, but it's not just for your English class. You can also apply this to all of your, or all other subjects that you're teaching. So why are we using or differentiating instructions in class? So first of all, I want to share to you why we're doing flipped learning. So flipped learning is the meta strategy that supports others, including differentiated instruction. So when we differentiate our instructions, we make it more enjoyable for our students. So with the use of flipped learning, we can actually make our classes more engaged, or our students more engaged in our lessons. And flipped learning makes it possible for teachers and students to build relationships, since it allows more time and opportunities for learners and teachers to interact inside the class. It makes learning personalized and empowers the learner to be independent and self-directed, according to McClaskey. So if you're going to ask me what is flipped learning, basically it's moving the direct instruction out of the class and making more meaningful activities inside the class, so that the students can practice the skills that they actually learn from that instruction that we have moved out. So to simply put, we are exchanging or switching direct instruction with homework. So instead of them learning instead of the teacher teaching the lesson inside the class, it's going to be at homework at home. So the students will learn all the theories, all the text at home, and when they come back to the class, then they can practice it and have more meaningful activities that they can actually manipulate inside the class. So how are we going to do this? So there are actually 3 steps. So step 1 is to set goals with your students first. Of course, if we want our students to agree with us or to be more engaged with us, then they have to know why we are doing it. Since we are changing how we do our classes or how we do our instructions inside our class. So first of all, you can ask your students to write their own goal in your class and write 3 things that they need to do to help them. So you can choose one goal for each student. So for example, you can use this guide. So teacher and students work together to understand, where am I going? What are your learning goals? How well am I going, or your current level? And where to next? Where am I going? So to make this learning, term learning aims clear, or long-term learning aims clear, you have to share the objectives with your learners. So they have to choose a skill that they want to improve, and then 3 things that they will do to help them improve that skill. And the last one, they have to uh, evaluate themselves. How will I know I improve? So after your class, after your semester, after the semester, then they have to check themselves if they have improved or not. So for example, uh, one goal is I will improve my ability to read English. So if you're teaching maybe high school students or university students, they can read 3 CFR or Common European Framework of Reference B2 level books, which is, I think, in the uh, advanced level. They can keep a reading log. That means they have to use a notebook and then write the things that they have learned from those books. And then at the end of the semester, you can ask them to write a 1 paragraph review on what they like and dislike or what they have learned about each book. Okay, so this is about reading English. Okay, you can also tweak this if you want them to improve their listening or their speaking or their writing abilities or their writing skills. So it's just up to the students on what they want to improve. And then, um, of course, they have to evaluate themselves. They can say that I know I improve because I will be able to read faster and understand the text better. So not just reading faster, but also improving their comprehension in English, which is actually one of the problems right now in, I think, with the students in the Philippines, because we were ranked number 77, if I'm not mistaken, with a survey. So this will actually help your students to improve their English skills. Okay, so just go back here. All right, so for step 2, this is the differentiation or how to make your instructions different. So of course you have to consider your students' learning styles. How are they able to learn better? Are they kinesthetic learners? Are they visual or auditory learners? So you have to adjust to your students' learning styles. And of course, you have to gauge your students' computer skills. Will they be able to use computers at home? Are they able to manipulate your the website correctly? So in this case, you also have to check in the class before sending them the homework, or in this case, the instruction. Check with your students if they can actually use those materials that you're going to ask them to use at home. And of course, it will result to your learners' ability. So if they can actually learn well using those equipment. Right. So how do you flip your lesson? So there are different techniques. So of course, if you flip your lesson, all the time that you use inside the class for dictation or for your instruction will be moved out. So you will have more time inside your class to do more meaningful activities. And of course, you have to also consider resources. Like you have to consider paperwork, more worksheets that you're going to give to your students. And you also have to think of the ability of your students. Are they less able or are they more able? And number 2, you have to think of extended parts. So what are these? So you have to put to make 2 parts for your lesson. First part is a core part where everyone is going to learn about it. And the next one is the extended part. So this extended part are for students who are more able. They are the ones who can easily grasp and understand your lesson. And of course, we have those students who are really smart, so they can finish your activities inside the class quickly. And if that happens, if they are finished, then you can give them the extended part of the lesson, something that's related to your lesson, but it's actually with a higher level. They don't have, they won't feel bored if they're finished with your activities. And you're actually giving them more time or more uh, activities that they can practice their learning. Number three, you can use this with the use of your mobile phones if you're allowed. This is called the station game. So you have to prepare as the teacher. You have to use QR code. So there is a website, QR code generator, where you can make your own QR codes. So what you'll do is that you'll uh, you'll you will scan, or you will make the QR codes and connect them or link them with pictures or music or stories and print them out. So paste them on the walls of your classroom and ask your students to move around and scan the QR codes with their mobile phones. And then they have to answer a few questions. So it's a fun way for them to move around and not just stay on their seats. So you can choose levels. For example, there are 5 questions. So level 1 is easy, and level 5 is, or question number 5 is difficult or hard. You can make MCQ or multiple choice questions, fill in the blanks, context, using their own words, and writing tasks if writing is your lesson. And also, you can use different forms of submission. So one way that your students can submit their work to you is using Google Classroom. So this I actually have used myself in my classes, and it's very efficient since the students are able to submit their work and on the deadline or before the deadline, and I'm able to grade their work and they can see it right away. So it's on time. And also for some other types of submission, you can use your video response. So your students are going to make their own videos and record them and send them to you. They can write their responses or their answers on Google Forms, and they can also record spoken. If they don't want video response, they can just record their voice and send them to you. Okay, so the next part is technology. How do you create the videos that you are going to send your students home? So this will be your instruction now. You are going to create videos. You can do it by recording yourself, instructing them, or teaching them the lesson, or you can also use it to record whatever on your computer or maybe on your smartphone. So for example, the different things that you can use are your smartphone, a document camera, which is actually like a projector, and screencasting. So from your laptops or from your tablets. So in PowerPoint, actually in Microsoft PowerPoint, you can use the recording. So it can record your voice as well while you're moving from page to page. So with a camera, you can use Screencast-O-Matic, QuickTime for Mac computers, and Jing. These are all applications or websites that you can use to screencast or record your screen, whatever is it in your screen, and while you're speaking. And with a tablet, you can use apps like Doceri and Lensu Create app. Okay, so those are just a few of the things, or a few of the things that you can use to create videos. However, if you don't want to create videos or you don't have the time to do it, then you can use the resources that you can find online, such as in YouTube or TED-Ed or other video sharing websites. So there are plenty of materials available for different lessons online, and you can just choose that and then ask your students to access the website. Right. So there are different things that you can also use. So let me just update. Sorry. Uh, just a second, please. Okay, I'll just mute Marjan. Sorry, I'll just mute you. Okay. All right, thank you. Okay. Okay, so the next part is part of the technology again. You can use video instructional tools or tracking tools, and you can also insert questions in the video. So for example, you have Google Forms, so you can link videos from YouTube using the Google Forms, and you can write your questions and they can answer it from there. Another one is Edpuzzle. So there are many choices of sources from Edpuzzle. You can trim the videos to make it shorter and add questions, and you can also monitor your students' progress while they're answering them. And the last one is Khan Academy. So this is a really good website that you can access, and there are plenty of lessons that you can use for different subjects. And the only negative thing about it is that you cannot edit the videos. However, they don't have long videos, so they're pretty short, and I think that it's very easy for your students to understand. Okay, so what if you don't have all those technologies? What if you don't have any access to the internet? How can you do a flipped class or a flipped learning in your class? So we have what we call the low-tech flipping. So, for example, if you know that your students have access to computers at home, you can ask them at the start of the semester or at the start of the school year to provide a flash drive wherein they can hand it over to you, and you can save your lessons or your videos in their flash drives and then send it back to the student so that they can do it at home and they can watch the videos or access your activities at home. And then you can also save it from a DVD, right? If you have a DVD burner on your computer, you can also use MP4 players, your iPad or iPod, and paper notes. So what are paper notes? So those are the what we call worksheets. So you have to prepare them beforehand, before your students go home, and ask them to maybe watch the video from YouTube or sorry, they don't have any access to internet. So you can, like what we do before, you can ask them to read the story from the paper notes and put maybe 2 or 3 questions right after, so you know that they are actually reading or doing their homework. Okay, so how about in class? So since we already asked the students to study the lesson at home, so what about the things that we have to do in class? So this is a great opportunity for us to actually improve their skills. So the first part is you have to set expectations from your students. So you can you can use the cup method. You have 3 cups or pieces of paper. So you can color code them into red, yellow, and green. If they need more guidance, for example, they watched the videos at home and then they came back to your class, they're stumped or they cannot understand the lesson, then they can show you, okay, I have a red cup, I don't understand, I need more guidance. So you are aware on how you can help your student. Another one is the yellow cup. So they need some clarifications. They understand the lesson quite well, but not enough. And the green cup or the green paper, so they can actually go to the next lesson. So you don't need to tutor them anymore. Number two is peer tutoring. You can also ask your students to help each other out. So if you know, so using the cup method, if you know that this student is green, or he already mastered the lesson, then he can help out the students who are in red, or those that need more guidance. So with this, you can actually form a good relationship with your students as well. Also, you can assign them into small group work, like inquiries and projects. Of course, they should be related to your lesson. And you can also use questioning strategies. So there should be more chances to ask questions from your students in class. So you can also, you have to use open-ended questions. Those questions that start with why, or how, or what do you think? Those questions will actually improve their critical thinking skills, and not just asking them what did they learn. Of course, if we have to verify if they actually learned something, but if you want to uh, improve their learning or their critical thinking skills, then we have to use open-ended questions. All right, and of course, there are some classes where we cannot just ask the students to do flip learning. So maybe for kindergarten students, or those students who are in the lower levels of grade school, and if the resources are really not enough for them to do flip learning, then you can do the in-flip technique. So you don't have to send them videos to watch at home. And if they don't have any access to technology like computers or the internet, then you can do this technique. So you have to divide your class into group 1 and group 2. So group 1 will watch the video while you are doing some exercises with group 2. And then you're going to switch them. So probably it's better if you put your good students, those green students, in group 2 first, since they already mastered the lesson, so they can actually answer all the activities in class, while you're, of course, helping them out. And when group 1 is finished with watching the videos, then they can help out those students. Okay, and also you can use flipping feedback. So for example, in a writing workshop, you are marking your paper through, or the paper of your students through video. So for example, you're teaching how to write an essay or how to write sentences. So you can record your checking or marking of the sentence or the paragraphs or the essay using your mobile phone video, and then send it to your students while you're checking it, or while you're correcting the work of your students. You're actually coaching them what to do or how to do it, so they can actually watch it at home and reflect on it, reflect on their mistakes. You can also you can use the document camera or a screencast for this as well, if you're using Google Forms. And if, for example, you're teaching reading, you can make a video on the parts of the stories or the characters, or you yourself will read the story to them. So you're teaching them pronunciation, correct spacing, and syllabication of words. You can incorporate those in your teaching. So we're now in step 3, or the formative assessment. So what is formative assessment? It narrows the gap between learners, according to Green. So we have to add, formative assessment is checking what they're learning while or right after you have taught them. So for flipped learning, you have a lot of time and opportunity to do formative assessment. So not just like an exam at the end of the semester. So every day that you see your students or you meet your students, then you have that opportunity to assess their understanding or check their understanding. So you can use paper or pencil, like as a 1/4 sheet of paper, you can ask them for that, or you can use online options such as Plickers, Kahoot, Socrative, and Quizzes. So these are the different websites or apps that you can use to assess your students on their understanding. So let me show one of that to you. For example, I'm sure you have heard of Kahoot. So this is how Kahoot looks like. So I have here a few Kahoots that I have already used in my classes. So let's maybe choose one that is quite easy. Okay, maybe vocabulary. Okay, so if you're going to play this, of course, your students should have access to the internet with their mobile phones if they're allowed to use it, or you can do it as a group, as a whole class. So you have to project the questions or Kahoot on the computer or the screen and ask them to check or answer the questions. So you will be given a code that you can see here that asks them to enter that, and then you can do the game with your students as a group, as a whole group, or small groups, or individually. So this is really exciting for students, but don't use it all the time because they might get bored. Maybe use it just to excite your students once in a while or as a review. Okay, so just put that here. Okay, but we are not going to do this game. I'm not able to do it. So on your mobile phones, or you're not able to do it. But anyway, that's how Kahoot looks like. So it's quite fun. And you can also use Socrative. So these are examples. So I have made a few of that here. So same as Kahoot, it has a code that you have to enter to be able to join. And as you can see here, it's multiple choice. So you can create these questions and answers beforehand. Right. And for Google Classroom, you can actually save your videos. And when you create a class, you can save the videos that you want to send to your students as their homework. And they can also send their work to you. For example, what I did with my students is that I asked them to take a photo of their books where they have written down their answers and then send it here on their Google Classroom or the Google Class. And then I was able to mark it and give them points. So for example, like this. Okay, so you can actually see here that this student was late because I made or gave them a deadline. But okay, for example, right. So I gave them a score from 1 to 100. So if they got all the answers correctly, then they get 100 points. Okay, so it looks like this. So no need for them to send their books to you, which is actually more convenient to the teacher because we don't have to carry all their books, and it's faster as well because they can see your the scores or the scores that you have given them, and as well as your comments. You can also add comments on their work. Okay, sorry, it's loading really slowly. Okay, so every week I have I have assigned one homework for my students. So I gave them maybe 2 days to do it. And if they miss the deadline, then I'm only going to give them half or a maximum of half points. So your students, I think, are very aware of level up games. For example, Mobile Legends or ROV, and they know how those games. Hello? Sorry, I lost connection. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you, Vilma and Dr. Andy. So I will continue. So of course, they have to start from the lowest level. If they don't understand the content from the previous level, then they can say they're in level 1. And if they need more instruction, they're in level 2. And if you think that you can coach them, you can assign them level 3, which is sit with me, or do a side-by-side coaching. Level 4 is if they've got it, but not quite mastered it. But level 5 is mastery. Okay, so those are the different mastery levels. Okay, so another way that you can do assessment is through the use of graded flip videos. Okay, what I've discussed earlier, Google Forms, Edpuzzle, and Khan Academy, and checking notes and worksheets. So before you send the video, or before you send the homework to your students, you can give them advanced organizers, especially for struggling or younger students. So what are these? These are pre-filled worksheets that they just have to write the most important words. They don't have to write everything on it. And you can also use the Cornell technique. So it's a kind of note-taking technique. You can search on Google if you want to know more about it. And you can do the WISC technique, or the watch, summarize, and question. So if you want them to, or if you want to know if they're really doing their homework, which is watching the videos at home or listening to your recorded audio, or even just reading those stories that you send them out, you can do all of these assessments. And for number 3, you have to also, or you can also do a mastery check, which is mini conversations with your students. You can do this one by one or in small groups. So for example, you can assign them video notes or worksheets, so odd or even. So 1 gets video notes, and 2 gets worksheet, and 3 gets video notes, and so on. And then if you really want to check if your students understand your lesson, you can do this technique. So ask them questions about the lesson that you have sent them. Sorry, I just need. Some people here. Okay, thank you. All right, so one way is if you know that the student is smart or has done their homework, you can ask them maybe from questions 1 to 10, you can ask them the last question, number 10, and then they can move on. For those struggling, you can ask them questions 7 or 9 or 2 or 3 questions for about the lesson. And if you know that they're cheating or did not do their homework, uh, uh, did not actually watch the videos at home, then you can ask them to explain or answer more questions like 7, 8, 9, and 10, so that you can determine if they're really doing their work at home. Okay, because we know students or some students are really lazy. So this is the chance that you can, this is the technique that you can do to check if they're really doing their work. All right, and of course, as what Bergman has said, the focus of flipped learning is reaching every student so that no one is left behind. I think this is a really powerful statement, especially in the Philippines, since there are a lot of students who are left behind in terms of their reading comprehension and their English skills. So if all of the teachers will put extra effort in teaching their students or using differentiated instruction with the use of flipped learning, then I think and I believe that that will actually work and make our students better in time. Right. So thank you so much for attending our webinar today. And if you have further questions, you can email me, right, at kenji@gentafel.org or kenjigunda@gmail.com. All right, thank you. And do you have any questions that you want to ask? Okay, let me just check the chat. All right, hello, Sir Ken. Okay, let me just unmute everyone here. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, yes, do you have any questions about the webinar? Okay, there's static.
Hi, Sir
How about
Ken.
April? Do you have any questions?
Sir Ken, can you share the slide also with us? Or
Sure. I'm sorry, there's somebody who's chatting.